Josie. Oh my God.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
We are live.
Oh, it's great. Thank you
You
for inviting me.
For those of you who don't know you, it's nice to tell a little bit more about who you are and what you do. So I know you from, I know we've been working together for a year now.
Yeah.
Yes. So you contacted me in, I guess, at and around August last year.
Yeah.
And you were searching for a vocal coach to help you with the album that you wanted to make. Yeah,
Yes.
so with the vocals. And so I want to talk in this live stream also about that whole journey, because you started out looking for a vocal coach, and then we started working on your vocals. And then what happened is you have been through this whole journey. So I try to explain to people, like, what do I do? Because we work on so many levels. We've been shifting mindset and beliefs and planning and setting up systems and strategies. And then suddenly you decided to let go of that project that you were working on. And then you went through that whole sort of creative, this kind of phase where we are searching and we don't know, we have this existential crisis, and you didn't give up. And then and then suddenly there was this outburst of creativity, and you found your own voice, and you found this whole creative team around you, and the single came out, and there's just more and more happening. So it's just been such an amazing ride. So could you tell us, where should we start? Should we start at the beginning?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I made music a lot between my 20s and 30s. So I was in a band and I was on stage a lot and lead singer, but also as a solo artist. And I moved to the Netherlands, and I got just distracted in the idea of running a business. So I stopped all my music creativity, and I thought, okay, that's done. I had a great time. I'm now going to focus on something else. And after 10 years of that, I stopped running my business, and I went back to normal life as an employee. And literally 6 months into that whole thing of coming home and there being nothing to do creatively, out of nowhere, my brain said, create an album. Okay. And I thought, you know what, this time round, instead of kind of feeling that it should be a certain way, I just thought, I'm gonna do everything as if it's the last day of my life. So I'm just gonna let go, and I'm gonna explore. I'm gonna challenge myself, and that's when I thought, okay, to really, really get the best out of myself, I'm gonna see about finding a coach, because I really believed that without the kind of the guidance and the structure and accountability that a coach can offer, certainly with the putting the work in to develop my voice and actually finding out what my voice can do, instead of just leaning on its natural ability, actually using it as a muscle, and the transformation and my ability. And also the biggest transformation is that when I record my vocals, I no longer freeze up and get angry with myself and kind of ruin the process. Instead, I use the advice that you gave. And it just means that it doesn't matter what time of day it is, it doesn't matter what's going on in my life, I go into that studio and I just record my vocals, and I then sit down to eat at the end of the day. I'm just like, oh, that was good. But instead of kind of getting caught up in how I would have processed that experience in the years before. So it's been,
Love that. And also how this morning you told me, because our work is partly focusing on the vocals and partly on all the other stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. even today you were like, yeah, I discovered this new thing and can we dive into it? And so I love it how you're like, you're so continuously like, committed to be learning also more about your voice and your craft, and not go into this mindset of like, well, I guess I know it all now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And also not into the mindset of, oh, this isn't working. See, you should have bothered, and then giving up. So, because that's really something I don't want to do. I really want to give it my, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
When you mentioned like in your and I remember when I got your first contact, you already, like, you mentioned that whole like, I'm gonna go into it as if it was the last day of my life. Like, I could read it between the lines, like how committed you were from the start, because you like, the things you wrote like already gave me this idea, like this is someone who really wants to go for it. But then what happened was you were supposed to record a jazz album, or tell us more about that. What
Oh,
the way?
this was limiting belief number one. Age. I didn't believe that I passed in the any other genre other than jazz. I thought someone over 40, you know, it's going to be jazz. And also my voice has been likened to jazz artists in the past. So it's like it was a double-edged sword. It was kind of like, okay, my voice sits comfortable in like a lower kind of key, and very breathy, very kind of earthy, I guess you could call it. And I thought, yeah, if I go up on stage, jazz is going to be the environment which is going to accept me the most. But very soon into the coaching and also advice from people who I started to meet once I started vocalizing that I was going to be making music again, that there was this thing of don't confine yourself to a genre. And what I found hard was I'd made this decision to do something in particular, and then to kind of go, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. It was also quite confronting, because it kind of meant, oh, what if I choose the wrong direction? But it totally was not the wrong direction. And I might still do jazz. So I could end up still doing a jazz song, but I don't have to define my, I don't have to box myself in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the time what we tend to do as people and artists. We have these beliefs, like you mentioned, limiting beliefs. We have beliefs about what box we should fit in, or it may be based also in what we have studied. Like if we have a specific background, like I used to have a lot of beliefs about my own voice, because there were certain things that I just couldn't do with my voice.
Yeah.
And I had been told that my voice wasn't suited for certain things, And then this is not to say like anybody did something wrong and harmed me. But probably some people, just saw something in me, and put like, people tend to give a lot of advice based on what their idea is, right? So you might be told like, oh my God, your voice is amazing for jazz, so you should sing jazz. And while that might be like a well-meant comment, for a lot of artists, it becomes this sort of like struggle of trying to fit a certain box, and then having this inner sort of like urge of exploring other sides. So I see a lot. Yeah, even when you have maybe an established career in some specific style of music, and then you still have this inner voice telling you like, oh, I would really like, maybe you did sing like R&B your whole life until now, and then maybe you do want to sing jazz, and you go, oh, if I sing that, I'm gonna lose all my fans. So we tend to have a lot of limiting beliefs around that. Now, how would you say, in terms of like, we did the vocal coaching that we did, how did that affect your sort of like the broadening of the view of what you could do as an artist. Like maybe like what I mean is like, oh, I don't only need to sing jazz. How did that affect that?
I remembered the first thing that changed was that my voice wasn't tired anymore. So I could do a whole evening of singing, and using the techniques meant that I could spend more time singing without feeling like there was something going on. And it also allowed me to explore different sound shapes. So that as now I'm working with a couple of people who make dance music, and before I would think, oh, my voice may not work with that, and then now, and certainly recently, by changing how I'm singing, in the past I might have thought, oh, that sounds a bit tight or a bit ugly, and now I know, oh, it's a different tone of my voice. And so it's kind of, it just allows me to to be more free, but also, funnily enough, have more trust in the singing that I'm doing, and be more daring as well. And it's not just the technique with muscles and breath, but it's also the visualization. And so that's certainly been the journey from learning more about technique.
I love that, how you say, like, I learned to trust myself more. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So can we go into the next, because we're on a journey. We are on your amazing journey, because which I think is so inspiring and so powerful for other artists who are joining in. Hi, there's new people again. Welcome, welcome. Because so you said on this journey, and then the first idea was, I'm gonna create an album of jazz style, and you were working on it already. You already had like songs written, and then something happened in the way it felt just not aligned. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened and what happened next?
What time was that?
That was around the time when you stopped you decided to stop the jazz project.
I think that's when it might be involved. Oh, that's a good one. I was working with someone who first gave me the idea to not confine myself to the genre, and that was in together at the same time as working with you. And then I think when I discussed that with others, and then I think maybe Charles, who produced Jealousy with me, he, I think, was the one who also kind of encouraged that idea and said, just experiment, just have fun, and then just let's go crazy. And I think all the factors combined, and also that gave me the courage to kind of do it.
Yeah, so what you did then at that point, you basically were able to find the right team around you. Yeah. So how did the coaching help at that point? Because what happened at that point, just before the team started to sort of like appear into your life, the rest of the team, right? Then what happened was this moment of like, okay, it's not going to be what I intended it to be, so what is it going to be, right? And then that is the reason to why I would love for you to talk about it, is because so many artists, when they get to that point in a creative journey, in a project, we hit these sort of like walls, and then we stop, and then maybe like it takes 10 years before we get back on track for some people, right? And it might even happen within the sort of like a learning arc like if we're like taking on the undertaking of developing something new, and then we hit the first sort of like, I call them the walking through the artistic valley of death, right? Like it's like the dark night, and then we hit the wall and we're like, what am I doing? Like, how do I get out of this? So how did the coaching help at that point? Because you did not call me and say, Katja, I'm gonna stop. You were like, let's work through this.
Well, I think it was the first time I maybe really showed my vulnerability. I remember sending you a video message and I was really questioning, what am I doing it for? And so the why came in, and then as we had this, that was when things really started to open up. But I remember there was this point when I was being productive, and I was so I was always kind of like busy kind of creating music. But I then said to you, but I just don't feel like it's going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when you just you told me to kind of like I want to say pull my socks up or sort it out, Josie, but you were like, matter of fact, kind of, I'm sure you've got a big collection of songs, just pick one. And it was so simple, but that was the hallelujah moment, because I was in this pattern of like, as long as you're just putting in the work, it's gonna happen. And I wasn't moving forward at all, and I was making it overcomplicated. So I was thinking I have to start from scratch and like literally in the dark pull the pieces together. And as soon as you gave that advice, I picked it up and I chose a song, and it ended up being a completely different song by the end of it. But it was literally from reaching out to you, from the what am I doing this for, hang on, I'm in a loop, help.
Yeah.
And you became my North Star. You just said, just try this. And
it's so like, when we're laughing about it, how simple it can be. But when we are in that, like, we do need to just pick something and like, that is where we are like, I remember we did a speed songwriting challenge.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where you, of course, we need to have like a plan and a strategy. But what is so good about this, that you're sharing this, is what I want other artists to hear, is that thinking your way through is not gonna help you.
No. Yeah.
It's like thinking about all the possibilities and thinking about the strategy, and like, clarity comes from action and engagement. And it doesn't come from the thinking. So I love it that you share this, because it's, we tend to get stuck in the thinking. Yeah. And then when going from thinking to the mind, there was something happened on the way. So we had been we worked on vocals, we worked on the planning and the strategy, and then we figured out, you even told me, like, I didn't even know that I had limiting beliefs getting stuck. So could you share this this story about what shifted things for
you? So for some reason I found it very hard to share on with friends with social media what I was up to. I felt that it was all quite negative, like the negative side of ego, or wanting to show off, or wanting to have attention. And I also found it very hard to share with family the progress. And I felt guilty, and also although I was really excited by everything I was doing, I felt like it was a bad thing to kind of to make it, to show it. And so I didn't realize that yeah, that this guilt was actually stopping me from taking steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just being worried about kind of how other people might feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, and that I wasn't aware of. I knew there was, but I kind of like saw it as a way of oh, I'm like being shallow, or something like that. And and then so I reached out to you, and you I remember you offered then a meditation, and it was a meditation where we then explore what's going on, and from that meditation we then design affirmations that suit what I need. And it was a very emotional experience, and I was quite surprised at how quickly things came to the surface. I also felt a little bit of shame, kind of like being so about some of the things that I said. I was like, oh, I can't say things like that, but I'm working with you is a very safe place. And yeah, from that moment on, it was as if a big weight lifted from my shoulders. And then I think I've been bombarding people ever since.
It's like unstoppable.
Yeah, and I then started getting involved in just dancing, and then doing covers, and then making visuals attached to it, and just and not feeling ashamed of sharing that. Or I mean, obviously it's scary, but at the same time, it was, because I was saying before, I want to do the best I can before I die, but no, not before I die, but as if it's my last day on day alive. But I wasn't actually able to do that, because in my head I was like, I want to go for it, but in the other part of me mentally,
Yeah,
blocked. Yeah.
And it's so, this is the magic powerful thing, is to, like, what you're then, I call it almost magic, but it's like what happens is, in that moment, like, you're starting to you're unlocking and shifting those beliefs and the whole energy around it. And then this is the woo woo part of me that I told you this morning. If you would have reached out to me like 5 years ago, I would not have worked on that. Yeah, because my own work has also shifted. Like, I first, like, everybody knows me as the vocal coach, and then mindset has always been a thing around it. And then along the years, like, artists used to come to me with all kinds of like brainstorming around projects, or that just like told me like when they got stuck, or in the creative process. And it turned out like, oh yeah, I think like I tend to have like this sort of like a natural born talent for like helping people with that side. So because they always came back like, yeah, it's super, like, oh my God, you know. That came more, that entered the picture, right? And then but then it was, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that I started daring to share for the first time these more like the energetic practices with artists, and then the practices that I do for myself. And then that is the beauty of it, is like, I noticed like that was the missing link, because we can do all the voice work in the world, we can do all the planning, all the strategy, all of that is not going to work unless we are out of alignment with our source, and unless we have cleared the blocks and the energy around that. Yeah. So I'm so happy that work with me now and not 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's been a was it also the same for you, that once you had this realization that, oh, I can offer more to my clients, did it take a while before you fully understood what your what you could actually offer and do for clients? Or
You mean this adding the energy work into the picture? Yeah. For me, it was like, now we're talking about identity, which is very much like one of yours, like the red line throughout your story was that you found your own, like you found your identity, and then you unleash your creativity around that, right? Because you're like, oh, I can do this, like I can do all these things with my voice, and now I have this creative flow coming out, and I'm gonna like play with it, and I'm not gonna box myself and think I'm only a jazz vocalist. And then you ended up writing and producing together, or Charles Henry is the producer and the mixer of your single Jealousy, which we're going to talk about in a while, which is like, it was mind-blowing to me because it's all a cappella. I remember you sent this to me with all these all full a cappella and all these different files, pictures, files that you did also, and so that was mind-blowing. So for you, this has been very much about identity, and I think for me also, that was the thing that stood for me in the way, was kind of like, before I started adding this part to my work, the energy part, was that I thought, like, I boxed myself. I thought like, well, everybody knows me as the vocal coach, and everybody knows me as like, you know, doing this stuff. So if I start to talk also about that, they won't understand what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Or like, it was this identity thing. And a limiting belief. Isn't that ironic? So I've had to work through a lot of my own limiting beliefs around that, to let go of things that I thought I, you know, kind of like needed for my artistic and coaching career. So I'm talking like, I'm usually, when I talk about artist, I mean artist in the broadest sense of the word, because for me teaching is an art too. So I don't like classify singer or teacher or musicians. Everybody's an artist to me. So to clarify that, but for me it was also a lot about like shedding a lot of these beliefs about like, you can only be this if you do that, or this is what people understand, or like so I had to work through also fears around that. So like, well, if I start to talk about energy, then will they still take me seriously as a vocal, because I was having this identity as the vocal technique specialist, right?
Quite scientific and
yeah
yeah.
And those two worlds, like they felt on the outside, if I looked at them on the outside, they felt like so far apart, like, but for me it made sense that all is connected. And it's also like you mentioned vulnerability, so it's also like about kind of like sharing something that is still it's so precious and so almost like private to you, like, ooh, like, you know, I'm doing this, I do this work because it, you know, and then to add that to the professional identity was super scary in the beginning. And then, you know, noticing what that does, what powerful shifts that combination unlocks in the people that I work with, is just like, that is the reason I like decided to give up on the ego talk. You know, ego says like, yeah, you know how our ego goes and says, don't do this, because ego talks from limiting beliefs, right? And then yeah, you share it's all about sharing the work that wants to come through you. That's the way I see it. But yes, I did have to go through my own share of shedding limiting beliefs around that. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's something that I found very instinctual from you, that regardless of what I threw at you, you picked it up and you shook it out, and then by the end of the 45 minutes, it was as if everything had just cleared up, and I knew what I had to do next. And yeah, that I found, I didn't know it was an option. It kind of like, but being able to reach out to you was, yeah, it transformed it's transformed everything for the coming years for me. So it's kind of it's pretty spectacular.
It's wow, it's so powerful.
And it's, yeah,
Oh,
more than I could have hoped for.
I'm just like, and then I just enjoy this so much. Also, just seeing seeing you grow and take off and continue and deepen like that. That is like, that's why I love coaching, and that's why I love mentoring. Is like I love being a co-pilot, a kind of like team member on these processes, because they're so powerful. They're so amazing. And yeah, so where are we now in our talk? Oh yes, because I wanted to go through the whole journey, and we ended up on the mind and the belief and the energy work. Yeah. So for those listening, and if you're wondering like what energy work, maybe it's nice to explain a little bit about this. So that is a part of the work that I do, is working with practices that are, yeah, energy practices. And I know that sounds super intangible, but we are energy beings. So these practices are tapping into our, like, they're shifting our energy on different levels, and we can talk more about that in another live stream. But so the meditation we did really is also a lot about clearing up things that are living in the subconscious mind, so that we can get aligned with what some people call the higher consciousness, and yeah, clear up the blocks. That's the source. Yeah. So that's
very effective.
It's I call it woo-woo, but it's like, if we think about energy and we think about the fact that what we see and we perceive as reality is just one little part of the energy around us. I sometimes think we should think about it the other way around. Like we are the what we see is the woo woo, and what we can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to then mindset, it's so good and important to know that the mental energy is the strongest, is such a powerful energy field, because there is also, like, we know that energy follows thought. So the mind energy is a very strong, powerful energy. So you might have all your actions and things aligned, but if your mind is sending out orders that lead you, that are based in limiting beliefs, then you're gonna experience the opposite of what you want to experience. I'm trying to do this in a very small nutshell, because I want to talk about I want to go on to talk about your single, but definitely since we opened the energy conversation, and I will come back to that in future live streams for those interested in knowing more. So you know what, let's do a little commercial break, because not a commercial break, because we're talking about energy. And I actually, because there was something I forgot in the beginning. Because I like to draw cards.
Oh.
So, and I know that at the beginning of the year you joined the Reconnect.
Yes. Yeah.
We drew cards there too. So could you, while I'm could you tell us a little bit about the retreat? What kind of an experience was the Reconnect retreat for you?
So that's the one with the workbook that we
Yeah.
went through together. It was the first time I think that was the first moment where there was looking at being a creator, looking at it from a different angle. So online and on YouTube and all those kind of places, there's lots of people saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's a very nice list, and I'm sure it's part of the fundamentals, but to then look at it from exploring what are your values, what are your beliefs, what are your challenges, what struggles do you have, and actually to kind of take it to a more personal level, but then also in a group environment. That kind of like then made it more human, that idea of making music, not just thinking about what results I want,
Yeah.
actually just kind of like thinking about the what it is to be a creative. And I remember when we were all dancing around.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
also just, at first you think, what's going on? But it's just necessary. And that was very interesting, because the idea of internalizing and kind of really thinking about those aspects, that was, yeah, it helped me connect to myself. So and it was nice to do that with others and to be led by you. Yeah.
Love it. It was all about connecting to your source.
Yes. Yeah.
So, because we did a card reading. These are cards from Gabrielle Bernstein and Michaela Ezra. And I love to draw them when I do like an event or something. Sometimes on a coaching session, I have different cards. So this is the message tonight for whoever's watching and listening, and for us. I love this. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna show this and I'll read it.
Yes.
Love it, especially because of what we just talked about, the beliefs and the. Okay, so the card says, as soon as I choose to see the light in the dark corners, I redirect my power toward what I want.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, that was the commercial break. Commercial break for get Gabby's cards. I love them. So then everything unleashed, and could you tell us then about your amazing, beautiful single?
Sure.
Where can we find it? And
it's on all the streaming places, also on YouTube now, accompanied by a music video. And I've just got to turn something off. It's gone. Sorry, I had a pop-up. Yeah, so it's on all the expected places: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, under the name Akers Music, and Akers is Akers. And it was originally called Losing My Senses, and it was a song that I wrote I think about 15 years ago, and the story stayed the same. So it's about in a relationship, and then you're mad about this person, you're deeply in love, but you kind of know that there's a chance that person is actually going to leave you, or is potentially falling in love with someone else. So it's that tension, so that was always the base of the song. So Losing My Sense was all about kind of becoming a bit of a nutter. So that whole thing, that love is going to drive you mad, and that's what happens. But there's always a thread of survival and strength in my songwriting, and so at the end, the story ends with the person pulls themselves together and actually just decides to do the brave and strong thing and leave the relationship. but there's a whole journey before that moment happens. And so it was originally written to guitar music and with a full band. What I mean by that is drums, bass, the classics. And this time round, it became an a cappella song, and it was quite fitting actually, because I'd obviously been working with you 7 months by that point, and I'd learned so much about my voice and had experienced new things that the a cappella, which Charles was involved in, actually just being brave and say, why not, you know, just do it all a cappella. And that just allowed me to also, because I always loved making my songs way more busier than they need to be, and there was always this thing of hold back, do less, and then I was suddenly working with people who were like, do more. don't worry about it, just let yourself go. And so that's why the all the parts of the song are actually like a storyline rather than the classic intro, verse, chorus, second verse, chorus, middle, eight, end. It has that in there, but each element actually has a different sound. I kind of see that is the development of the relationship as well, where it just goes through all these different phases, and so it's not possible to keep it as a standard pop structure.
Yeah, it's like a movie when it's like yeah. So and it became fully a cappella. How many vocal tracks did you end up? Do you remember?
I think poor Charles had to sift through more than 1,000 different lines, and it ended up being, I think, 560 or something like that. So it's still a lot. So if anyone, oh no, I'm going to forget the artist's name. There's, I think it's, so it was a lot, and and I'm glad that I wasn't the one producing it.
You found an amazing producer, and you introduced, actually I got to know him through you now, and I'm so happy about that. So if you're online watching still, Charles Henry, you were there. So nice to have met you via Josie, and people who are watching, go and check out his work, because he did amazing work with you.
Very talented. Yeah.
And what is so beautiful about this single is that really, like, it was totally like out of the box, like 500. So now we gotta summon up 500 singers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have plans to sing to get back up on the stage this year. But the single has made that very challenging.
Or like a virtual choir kind of thing.
Yeah. So it will get performed live at some point, but the how is going to be worked. Yeah.
And now, so because we've been now also diving into the planning of what I love it, your documents in our shared Google. We use these shared Google folders, and it's called Phase 2.
Yes.
So we are now in Phase 2 of Josie.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about what is coming up in Phase 2?
So I think I'm setting myself the target of having 3 songs to bring out from February next year, and so that's step 1, is to get that together. And I really want to start working with other people who create the music, and then I provide the vocals and the lyrics too. And I'm already working with 2 very talented people, and that is DJ Alchemist and Novel Rain is his name, and they produce very strong sounding dance music, and that's also a fantastic experience. And the idea is just to meet as many people as I can and continuously work with as many different people as I can. And there's also a highly talented guitarist based in Rotterdam, and I just plucked up the courage to just ask him straight out, and I was like, dude, do you want to do something together? So we're so the idea is next week we're going to have a bit of a jam session. So he's a very talented guitar player, also produces, called Sneeble. So that's really exciting, and that's the idea. Is going to be quite exploratory with him, with musically, and then with other producers that can be more in the dance field, and yeah, more kind of the dance or pop, that kind of thing. And then my own music, I'm still yet to find out. I don't think it'll be a cappella like Jealousy, but I do believe it's going to be more free than I was planning this time last year. So, yeah, and with your help, I'm gonna achieve it all. And it's gonna be the best time of my life.
It's so great to be on your team.
Yeah.
It's so great. And this is something I wish for all artists out there. Get yourself a team. You cannot do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so who you got on your team now? I'm so honored to be on your team. You got Charles Henry has been on your team for the, you know, so it's like, we need all these different people. And I know you've been taking courses, all kinds of all kinds of different things for your skills. So that, yeah, for everybody out listening, if you're like struggling, also have a look at, like, are you trying to figure it out all by yourself? Like, even like I work like with coaches all the time. I have coaches and mentors myself. And, you know, one of my coaches I've worked together with for, I think, 8 years already, you know, and I have artists who I know for like 10 years, and we work together in different, you know, we work on The Voice, and then we work on the other stuff, all the other stuff. So we keep working together, because I think we need not only the team, but also these moments of reflection. So if you would like tell the people watching, what is it like for you to have a coach on? What has that meant for you, or what has it made? What has changed?
I think the direction and clarity, and I remember I've had a few experiences which could have really affected me, and I remember opening up and telling you about it, and then just the advice that you gave just allowed me to kind of not go down the wrong path, or not get caught up. So it kind of allowed me to kind of set boundaries, and really have filtered out all the noise, and every time I faced a challenge, the advice that you gave, or the opdrachten, the assignments,
I love
that really just meant that I kept moving forward, and I didn't take any baggage with me. It just allowed me to just it gave me more freedom and direction, and also the accountability part. So it was kind of obviously I could tell you about what's going on, the challenges, and then not do anything about it actually. But that kind of wanting to move forward and tell you in the next session the change is made, and that also gave a sense of pride, like ticking off a to-do list, but in a very healthy way, super healthy way. So
really, and then because we are also in touch between coaching sessions. So and there's like, this is not only accountability, because it goes both ways. Like sometimes I open my phone and I message from you, just like it's almost like a love letter, you know. I feel so much gratitude working with you. I love hearing those, but it sometimes it's also like it can be a very practical question, or it can be like a moment of like, you know, getting stuck, or so. So that is also part of the accountability, is this whole, you know, meeting up for sessions, but also being able to be in touch in between the sessions.
Yeah, and the vocal, the fact that I can continue to move forward as I want to kind of like say it as an artist, but with actually wanting to achieve certain goals in a business side of things. But alongside that, to actually develop my skill set as a singer, and work on my songwriting, and kind of like work on the craft, and actually have those two run alongside each other, is it just like a complete I want to say package. It kind of like just that though when I've had worries about my voice, when I can't achieve a note that I want to go for, and I was able to send you a video, and you gave me, I would then get a video back with a really descriptive explanation and techniques work that I could then pick up. It just meant that I was just continuous. The speed was incredible, and it just meant that I kept on achieving these new heights, and I just didn't know this about my singing. So yeah, it was yeah, complete, just totally complete. Yeah,
I love it. I love it, because we're going in through so many things. Like, oh, we could probably talk the whole night, because because there's so many cool projects and plans on the horizon, and looking at also the strategy and how to manage all of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're like this train that is just like take off, or like a, how do you call it, like a rocket, you know, goes to off. So it's and where can we find, because I want everybody knows, okay, go to Spotify, all the places. Where can we find your other, like, your podcast that's coming up, and could you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, sure. I also find the inner workings of the brain, and because I'm somebody myself who loves to just keep learning and keep growing as a person, alongside the transformation with you, I've been delving very deeply into the self-development side, and there's a lot of great resources out there. And so with my father, because he has done a lot of work with the brain, and he's been a very good teacher for years. So we're going to come together and start a podcast, and it's called the Rewire Inspire podcast. And that's going to be, I also want it to be useful. So I don't want to be decorated by stories about my experiences. That's not what it's going to be about. It's literally about taking the information that's available and making it bite-sized for anyone who's also interested. So it's just a that's that, but it also supports my interest and experience of the whole self-development as well. And then the design, the illustrating, at this moment, that's downtime. So it's when I'm not making music, I still, I don't know, have this desire to create something. And that's, I think that's Akers Visuals. So it's all in my description in the Instagram. You can link to that. And I'm currently just working on a theme of flowers and birds. And the idea is that it's just not to think that I have to do something every day, but just slowly build up my ability to create great illustrations on that theme. And that's play. And soon there'll be a website. I'm currently building it. It's Akers. Akers Music wasn't available. So I think it's akers.com. It's my surname repeated. And that'll have links to everything. And that I'm going to just spend the next 12 months building it up. because obviously you can't do everything.
No, and that is so cool. And that is so one of the things we do sometimes in these sessions is like you present me with all these cool stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because I love all this, and then we figure out how to allow your creativity to flow through all these things without losing track of what is important next.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that get stuck in our own creative shiny objects.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also where, I don't know if you agree, but a form of procrastination as well.
Yes,
kind of not actually doing the work that I kind of say is what my intention is, but then kind of like, yeah, but I've just spent 2 weeks making this great piece of art.
Yeah, my goodness. Oh goodness, Josie, let's get on it. We need to make another live stream about it. And resistance shows up in exactly what you say about this, because it tends to sometimes in those moments, especially when we're going through going through the valley of death on the creative journey, and we're like, oh, there's like, this is difficult, or it's a task that just sort of like scares us a little bit, you know. It's like resistance loves new creative projects. Yeah, so that's part of the thing, that we are managing your creative projects so that you can do it all.
Yeah,
yeah.
But there is the acceptance that there is one main goal, and and that.
Yeah, I'm so much looking forward to your podcast. It's going to be amazing. Is there anything you would like to add to our end of our stream? We could go on the whole night.
I would just, if someone watches this video and they can relate to my experience and really want to explore their talent or their dreams, that actually working with you, working with a coach is I think actually the best way to go about it. And to I know you offer a free call to first discuss, so really take advantage of that and work with you. It would be my advice. But no, really, that like you say, the team around you, if I had not have reached out to you, there is no chance in hell I would have a song out on Spotify on Spotify. And I would not be so confident that I am actually going to achieve my goal of making the best music I possibly can, and that's for sure. So it's that's what I'd like to end it with. Just invest in yourself, which means invest in working with a coach. Yeah.
Thank you. Wow. And yes, it is for those listening and watching. Yes, the discovery call, the application call is free. So it only costs a little bit of your time to fill in some questions and then sit with me and chat about your questions. Did you know that I had some artists ask me afterwards, could you please send me an invoice, because I gained so much clarity from this call. So you see, so you can just just get on this call, and there's nothing like there's nothing. Love to chat with you. So and I want to tell everybody to follow Josie, because she's amazingly inspiring, and I'm so curious about all the things that is still gonna come out.
I don't know what it's going to be, but I am super excited. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for being my first live stream guest. I'd love to have you on again, and then we'll talk about all the other things that we could talk about. And and I'll see you soon. And thanks, folks, for joining in, and I'll see you soon in another stream.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks,
Bye.
Josie. Bye.